My parents spent years telling everyone I abandoned them until a lawyer's attachment exposed what they hid. For most of my adult life, I was the villain in my family's story. I knew it because people kept telling me. An aunt would call and ask why I never visited my parents. An old family friend would run into me at a grocery store and say, "You should forgive them, they're getting older." Even strangers somehow seemed to know. The story was always the same. I was selfish. I moved away, I stopped helping. I cut contact for no reason, and my poor parents were heartbroken. The weird thing was that none of it was true. I hadn't abandoned anyone. If anything, I'd spent years trying to save my family from itself. The conflict started when I was 27. My father lost his job after nearly 3 decades with the same company. It wasn't his fault. The company downsized. Suddenly, my parents were struggling. I had a stable career and decent savings, so I stepped in. At first, it felt temporary. A few $100s here, a utility bill there. Then it became monthly, then weekly, then constant. Whenever I tried to discuss a budget, my mother would cry. Whenever I asked where the money was going, my father got defensive. I told myself they were embarrassed. I told myself they needed time. Years passed. The requests never stopped. One month they needed help with property taxes. The next month it was medical expenses, then car repairs, then insurance. There was always something. I kept helping because they were my parents. The first clue that something wasn't right came from my younger sister, Emily. She accidentally mentioned a cruise. I laughed because I thought she was joking. My parents had been telling me they couldn't afford groceries. A cruise seemed impossible. Emily got quiet immediately. Then she changed the subject. That stuck with me. A few weeks later, I checked social media. My parents rarely posted anything, but one of their friends had uploaded vacation photos. There they were, smiling, standing on a cruise ship. The date matched the same month they told me they were choosing between medication and electricity. I confronted them. My mother burst into tears. My father got angry. He said they deserved one nice thing. He said I was counting every dollar I gave them. By the end of the conversation, I somehow ended up apologizing. Looking back, that should have been the moment I walked away. Instead, I stayed. Another 2 years passed. Then came the house. My parents claimed they were months away from foreclosure. They said they needed a large loan, not a gift. A loan, they promised to pay it back. I emptied a significant portion of my savings. The amount was enough to delay my own plans to buy a home. I wired the money. 3 months later, I learned something strange. The foreclosure notice never existed. I found out by accident while helping my father organize paperwork. The mortgage was current, completely current. I remember staring at the documents. I thought there had to be another explanation. There wasn't. When I confronted them again, everything exploded. My father accused me of spying. My mother claimed I was humiliating them. Neither explained where the money went. That was the first time I stopped sending checks. The reaction was immediate. Calls, voicemails, messages from relatives. Apparently, my parents had already started telling people I abandoned them financially during a crisis. Nobody asked for my side. They just assumed my parents were telling the truth. Within months, I became the selfish child. Family gatherings became unbearable. People treated me differently. Conversations stopped when I entered rooms. Some relatives openly criticized me. One even told me, "After everything they sacrificed for you." That sentence followed me everywhere. Eventually, I stopped attending. Then I moved several states away for work. That decision became part of their story, too. According to them, I left because I didn't care, not because every family event had turned into a public trial. For years, I kept my distance. I spoke to my sister occasionally. Everyone else drifted away. It hurt, but it was peaceful. Then 5 years later, I got an email. The sender was a law office I'd never heard of. At first, I assumed it was spam. The subject line contained my parents' names. That caught my attention. I opened it. The message was brief. An assistant apologized and asked me to disregard the attached file. Apparently, it had been sent to me by mistake. There was no explanation, just an apology. Normally, I would have deleted it, but curiosity got the better of me. The attachment was already downloaded. I clicked it. What I saw changed everything. The file wasn't intended for me. That much was obvious. It contained documents related to my parents' estate planning, financial records, property information, legal correspondence, and one folder labeled Family History Summary. I opened it. The first page made my stomach drop. It described me as estranged. Not surprising. Then it explained why. According to the document, I had refused years of financial assistance requests and abandoned my parents after receiving substantial monetary gifts from them. I read that sentence 3 times. It wasn't just false. It was the exact opposite of reality. The document claimed my parents had repeatedly supported me financially. There were references to loans, educational expenses, emergency assistance. The problem was none of those things had happened. Then I noticed something even stranger. Attached to the summary were copies of checks supposedly written to me, large amounts, thousands of dollars. The signatures looked authentic. The account numbers belonged to my parents. For a second, I questioned my own memory. Then I looked closer. The endorsements on the back weren't mine, not even close. Someone had deposited them elsewhere. My hands started shaking. I kept reading. Every few pages revealed another contradiction. The narrative my parents had been telling people wasn't random. It was documented, organized, repeated, almost rehearsed. Then I found the ledger. That was the real bombshell. The spreadsheet tracked financial transfers spanning nearly 15 years. My name appeared constantly. According to the records, enormous amounts of money had supposedly been spent helping me. Yet the corresponding bank records showed something different. The funds weren't going to me. Many transfers led to accounts connected to my sister. Others funded luxury purchases, vacations, vehicle upgrades, home renovations. I stared at the screen for nearly an hour. Suddenly everything made sense. The cruises, the missing foreclosure, the endless emergencies, the lies, but one question remained. Why? Why create such an elaborate story? The answer appeared in a letter written by my father's attorney. It wasn't meant for my eyes. The attorney was summarizing family financial history based on information provided by my parents. One paragraph stood out. It discussed concerns that future inheritance disputes could arise due to significant lifetime support already provided to one child. One child, me. I felt sick. The entire narrative had a purpose. They were building a paper trail, a justification, a story that explained why I would receive little or nothing from their estate. At first, that seemed ridiculous. I hadn't expected an inheritance. I hadn't even thought about it. Then another possibility hit me. This wasn't about future inheritance. This was about the past. I called my sister. The conversation started normally. Then I asked a simple question. Have Mom and Dad been giving you money? Silence, long silence. Finally, she said yes, not recently. For years, I asked how much. She wouldn't answer. I asked again. Eventually, she started crying. That was answer enough. The truth came out slowly, painfully, over several conversations. Emily had struggled financially for most of her adult life. My parents helped constantly. Rent, credit cards, cars, personal loans, business failures, everything. The money I gave my parents hadn't disappeared. Much of it had gone to her, not because she demanded it, because my parents volunteered it. They wanted to rescue her over and over again. But they were ashamed to admit how much, so they created another story, a simpler story. They told everyone they were helping me, the successful child, the stable child, the one people would believe didn't need help. Every dollar they diverted became part of that fiction. Every lie reinforced the next one. For years, they told relatives they were sacrificing for me. Then when I stopped funding them, the story had to evolve. Suddenly, I became selfish, ungrateful, abandoning parents who had supposedly given me everything. The narrative protected them from questions. It protected Emily from judgment. And it protected their image. I thought discovering the truth would make me angry. Instead, I felt exhausted, like I'd finally solved a puzzle I never wanted. Lawyer called 2 days later. He sounded horrified. Apparently, the file had been sent accidentally during a contact verification process. He asked me to delete it. I asked one question first. Did my parents know what was in that file? There was a pause. Then he carefully said yes, that was all I needed. Over the next month, I gathered evidence, bank statements, old emails, wire transfers, messages, everything, not because I wanted revenge, because I wanted proof. I knew what would happen otherwise. Nobody would believe me. Years of lies don't disappear overnight. Then fate intervened. A family reunion was scheduled. Normally, I wouldn't attend. This time I did. The atmosphere was exactly what I expected. Cold smiles, awkward greetings, whispers. My parents acted surprised to see me. My mother even hugged me dramatically, as if we were reconciling. During dinner, one of my uncles made a comment. He said it was nice that I finally remembered I had a family. People laughed, including my father. Something inside me snapped. Not explosively, quietly, I stood up. I asked a simple question. How many of you believe my parents financially supported me for years? Almost every hand went up. Then I started talking, not emotionally, not angrily, just facts, dates, transfers, documents, checks, the fake foreclosure, the cruises, the estate records, the lawyer's file. At first, nobody believed me. Then I started passing around copies. The room became silent. One by one, people stopped talking. My father looked pale, my mother cried, but this time nobody rushed to comfort her. Questions started flying, questions my parents couldn't answer, questions they'd avoided for years. The worst moment came when my aunt compared dates. The same month my parents claimed they paid my emergency expenses was the month they bought a luxury SUV. The paperwork showed it. There was no explanation. Everything unraveled after that. Relatives who had judged me suddenly realized they'd been manipulated. Some apologized immediately. Others looked embarrassed. A few simply left. My parents didn't defend themselves for long. Eventually my father admitted part of it, then more, then enough, not everything, just enough. The family fractured almost instantly. People took sides, arguments erupted, old resentments surfaced. Years of hidden financial secrets came pouring out. Apparently, I wasn't the only person they'd lied to. In the months that followed, several relatives discovered similar stories. Different details, same pattern. Image mattered more than truth. Control mattered more than honesty. My relationship with my parents never recovered. I don't think it could. The issue wasn't the money. It wasn't even the lies. It was the years, the birthdays, the holidays, the conversations I'd lost because people believed their version of me. Those years couldn't be returned. Emily and I eventually rebuilt our relationship. That surprised me. She admitted she'd suspected something was wrong for a long time, but she never imagined the scale of it. Neither had I. Today I rarely speak to my parents. When I do, the conversations stay superficial. Weather, health, nothing deeper. Trust doesn't grow back after something like that. The strangest part is what happened afterward. Several relatives confessed they always thought the story about me felt off. They just never questioned it. My parents sounded convincing. They sounded hurt. People trust hurt parents, especially when the alternative is believing they created their own victim story. Sometimes I think about that accidental email. One wrong attachment, one careless click. That's all it took. For years, I thought the mystery was why my parents hated being questioned, why every conversation turned into guilt, why so many people seemed certain I was selfish. The file answered all of it. They didn't fear being questioned because the truth was painful. They feared it because the truth connected every lie they'd told for more than a decade. And once I saw the file they never wanted me to see, I realized something far worse than being abandoned by your family. Sometimes your family decides they need a villain. And if you're the easiest person to cast in that role, they'll spend years writing the story before you even know you're in it.